Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk. Welcome to episode 53 of Word Ninjas Live. We're coming to you today on a Monday night. What is this ridiculousness? We decided to skip last night because reasons. Various reasons. But we're still doing a show this week. So here we are. I am Charles, your instigator of literary productivity. And joining me this week is Will.
Hello.
Justin.
I too am here.
And Ed.
I am a wild Ed.
Calvin's being Calvin, off on wild, crazy shenanigans as he usually is.
He's off
Oh, yeah.
becoming a Pokemon master.
Yes. One of us has to. Let's see. No interviews for today, although we will have one next week. Hooray! I'm looking forward to that one. That one's going to be fun. This week we just have some talking points. And when I say some, I mean two, because that's all I put in there.
I may wax poetically after the official notes.
By all means.
Do your poems go faster if you wax them?
They do.
In this heat, not surprisingly. Let's see. The first talking point that I had was, how do people create their own spin or style on public domain characters or concepts? And to elaborate on that, since it's kind of a vague statement, I read Call of the Jersey Devil, and then I watched a playthrough of The Wolf Among Us, which has a Jersey Devil in it. And it made me start thinking, which is always dangerous, how do people figure out their own style of how they want to take something like a myth or a commonly known character or situation and put their own style in it? Because pretty much all of us have at one point or another.
Even if we never actually wrote it down.
Yes.
I make a creative living on this.
Then obviously,
I
Ed,
feel like this is the perfect
45
time
minutes
to
on
bring
this.
up. I feel like this is the perfect time to bring up Wet for Nessie. And
It's always a good time to bring up Wet for Nessie.
Did you ever find a copy of that?
Isn't that long?
That
Yes,
you're
I
willing to
did
admit
find a
to?
copy of it. I did not buy it yet. I totally forgot about it. It is in my bookmarks, though. Maybe I'll have a book review on it one day.
You have fun with that one. But yeah, everyone does it because a lot of the fun concepts or characters that we like to play with have already been created. It's just we're taking our own perspective on it and making them our own.
Or like me, I slap a uniform on mine.
I've toyed around with variations of vampires and werewolves and witches and things like that. Nothing ever that I actually got written down. I always find some way to throw anthropomorphia in there these days.
I can't really say anything for my stuff, considering my zombie apocalypse story has all sorts of non-human components and bits and pieces in it now. But I mean, even that, the whole concept of a zombie apocalypse has been done to undeath at this point. I'm just adding my own style to it.
I like when the undead aren't the bad guys.
That's rare, but it is interesting when they do it. I feel like, what is it? Warm Bodies was a good example of that.
I never actually got to see that one, but I did want to. But yeah, that is an example of where the undead aren't necessarily the bad guys.
I've only seen a couple clips from that, but it does look like a very well done movie.
There's a video game out there right now. I forget the name, and it's in early alpha, so it's probably bad to pimp it anyways. That, usually when you play a video game, you're trying to escape zombies in some manner or another, usually in a hack and slash style manner. However, this one, you actually control the zombies, and you get a zombie army. So like real-time strategy when you build tanks and soldiers? Instead of building tanks and soldiers, you zombify people with your zombies, and then they become part of your army.
Yay!
I'm in.
The concept is really good. The game needs to be fleshed out quite a bit. But again, it's an early alpha, and the concept is really cool.
Interesting.
Makes me think a little bit, actually, of what they did with Chibi Vampire, where they had a vampire who made excess blood instead of needing to drink blood from others. So she actually had to bite people to give her blood to them instead of drinking blood of other people. And if she didn't, she got ridiculously over-the-top nosebleeds.
Oh my.
She was adorable.
They also had the twist that when the vampires feed off of people, they don't just drink their blood, but they kind of help them deal with some negative thing they're dealing with, and all vampires are attracted to a certain negative emotion, like depression or stress or anger. So they'll go for, like, one vampire will go for someone particularly who's stressed out, drink their blood, and then for the next few days the person will be less stressed.
That would be nice.
And we can't talk about vampires without me bringing up Let the Right One In, which is an excellent vampire movie that I recommend. It takes a whole new twist on the vampire genre with some clever references to typical lore. Did anyone see the Dracula Untold movie that was heavily advertised last time I went out to the movies? Maybe it hasn't even come out yet. And maybe it never will, because I feel like that movie doesn't need to exist.
Never heard of it.
Heard of it.
Well, there we go. I think that's all I have to say.
For some reason, all of that brought to mind Buffy the Vampire Slayer and how they handled vampires and demons. Not all of them are evil by default. And again, that show is a bit silly at times, but good.
Are we counting spiritual deities and myth and folklore
I don't
on
see
this
why not.
public domain list?
Sure.
Because I feel that I like what people do with the whole angels versus demons dynamic.
There's a lot of good series out there now that are taking their own spin on those.
And
Several of those series are on the shelf behind me.
speaking of which, we need to set up a Let's Play for Diablo 3.
Yeah, one of these years.
Bayonetta was interesting with that, considering you played as a witch in League of the Devils, the demons, and the Angels of Heaven were the bad guys because the leader of that group wanted to rewrite the world by recreating God. Of course, doing so would kill most everyone on Earth.
Yeah, minor detail.
So you spend the game as a demon summoning witch battling the Angels of Heaven to save humanity. And the angels were... They actually went really old school biblical with the angels. They did not look like regular people with wings. They looked like horrible monstrosities made out of gold and ivory.
Oh my.
I have to get Bayonetta 2. I don't think it's come out yet, though. They've just been advertising it a whole lot.
Oh.
We have a visitor.
Yay,
So-
visitors.
How do you deal, Marcus, with public domain? You want to share? No?
Eats then.
I agree with the cat.
Meow indeed.
just for fun, what is one of the best interpretations of a public domain style thing each of you has seen? And it can be in any format or genre.
Oh,
Or it can be one of the worst ones you've ever seen, if need be. Just something that really stuck out.
I'm not getting into my worst one.
I'm gonna grab it. I'll be right back.
I think my favorite is probably the aforementioned Let the Right One In. That movie was emotionally beautiful and upsetting at the same time, which is somewhat difficult to get with a cliche vampire story, especially when there's a love interest involved.
Ah, yes. I'm with you on that one.
Something
Where's
dramatic
Wildcat?
happened.
None on my desk.
Question mark.
A few things. Hold on.
Okay. Gonna pimp a buck. Christopher Moore's A Dirty Job. Public domain, The Grim Reaper and Death. It had an interesting tale about how the Grim Reaper actually hasn't been around for a really long time. So there are a group of regular people who basically have to collect the souls of the dearly departed for death, because there is no death. And when you die, your soul gets transplanted into an object that was close to you in life. These people have to come across these items, and they all usually run some kind of used or second-hand store. Like the main character in this book does estate sales and runs a pawn shop. So these items, he would obtain them and then sell them to people who don't have souls yet, and that's how the souls go through life. It gets stored in an item, and then one person will come in, see that item, and instantly want to buy it. And then he would sell that item to the person, and that person would get their soul. And that's how souls just keep going through life, gaining more experience.
Quirky.
And they have to keep doing this because there is an evil force of shadow people lurking about that the Grim Reaper used to keep at bay. But if you do things wrong with all these souls, they start lurking up and steal the souls for themselves.
They live in the storm drains too, if I remember.
Yeah, they live in the storm drains. Oh, and his daughter has a little tricky too. She has her own pair of guardian hellhounds.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I also like how he handles vampires.
If we go into Grim Reaper territory, there are two series that really stick out for me. One is the television show Dead Like Me, which was a lot of fun in how they handled the Grim Reaper scenario. Is anyone other than Justin familiar with that?
Afraid not.
Basically, Grim Reapers are just regular people who have passed away, usually from something dramatic, like something like the main series was a group of people who died by very ridiculous means, like part of a space satellite hits your head.
Nope.
But becoming a Grim Reaper means that you then go find people who are going to die under similar means and then get their soul out before bad things happen, and then lead them on to whatever afterlife is meant for them, from what I vaguely remember. It's been a good while since I've seen the series. But meanwhile, they're still people. They can interact with the regular human world, which means they kind of need jobs, presuming that they actually go via the legal means and get a proper job.
Right.
And the other Grim Reaper scenario is Terry Pratchett's Grim Reaper, or Death. Basically anything in the Terry Pratchett Discworld series. Because their equivalent of Santa Claus is the Hogfather, which was a fantastic book and a very well done movie. one of the few good adaptations I've seen. Mainly because Death has a daughter named Susan.
It's a nice name.
Hmm.
Must be awkward on bring your father to class day.
Yeah, they have kind of an awkward dynamic from time to time.
What does your daddy do, little girl? He kills people and brings their soul on to the next life.
He doesn't really do the killing so much as just coming after the person has died and taking them to whatever afterlife that person believes in.
Hmm. What about anything and everything from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy verse?
That was awesome.
That universe is just weird. Entertaining, but weird.
Hmm.
Courage the Cowardly Dog also had a Grim Reaper episode or two.
It did.
And among other cultural references and public domain characters.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content out there. All based off of similar characters.
Hmm. Never actually written too much about that, though. I confess, I get leery about doing it wrong. Like, I once thought about writing fan fiction. I was like, but what if I write the characters out of canon? And that made me so nervous. But for me, it made me so nervous that I wouldn't do it. Like, I don't want to write them out of character.
You gotta do something.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say you gotta do something genre bending and bringing characters together like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There's some weird public domain characters mingling.
Hmm. I feel like 95% of the time there's no clear wrong way of portraying them. It only gets bad once you forget things like actual character depth or plot development, like certain series that are a lot more popular than they should be.
Which we will
Right,
not name here.
you can't have a cardboard cutout of this public domain character or creature and expect that to propel your story. You can only get by with recognition so far.
Hmm. That's why you need to have your own spin on it. And still do the regular stuff like character development, plot development, spelling, grammar, the basics.
Don't commit any word crimes.
Let's see. What was the other one I had in mind? Is there a way to repurpose certain skills and abilities to accomplish goals? Oh yeah, I was thinking about that earlier this week because I mean I can play a video game for like 4 hours straight, like I did with Will, and like
Fun times, though.
yeah, which is good and fun, but I can like do that for 4 hours without really getting too distracted. Like, why can't I do that with other stuff? How do you transfer that type of focus to whatever you need it to be? Presuming that there is a way to do that.
There are times where I've sat down and written for hours, barely any distraction. Depends on how into the scene I'm writing I am. Like if it's a really good scene and a scene I've been planning out for a long time, when I sit down to write it, sometimes I'll just 4 hours, just like playing a video game or reading a book.
Because you're actively engaged in what you're working with.
Yeah. You have to really be engaged in what you're doing in order to just do it for hours on end. If you're forcing yourself or you're having trouble writing, or it's kind of a necessary scene, but it's not as exciting to you, you might get pretty easily distracted.
Wonder if there are ways to artificially impose some focus during those times to help extend your time on that so you don't get too distracted too quickly. I feel like that's almost Justin's territory.
I can
with
think of a
his
couple ways that I knew
themes
some
of
people in
focus.
college would do that aren't necessarily legal.
Yeah, let's try and focus on some of the more legal means if possible. This is a live stream after all.
Yes, no illegal stuff.
So, one thing that I like to do is turn something hilariously monotonous into something fun. And that can be challenging sometimes, but I do it on occasion. I usually try to, make it into a game or a challenge. I get into the zone and really focus on something. Think about all the times you've done a word war or a word sprint in Nano. You're trying to get through writing your 1667, and you're, having a little bit of writer's block, and you're not really inspired to write. But then as soon as you throw down the challenge flag, game on, and you just start writing as much as you can. So whether that's sort of I need to be better than other people, let me prove myself, or let's see how well I can do, and kind of pace yourself with the other people that are around you, and try to overcome and figure out where your walls are and how you can break through them. I think making a game out of basically anything you do is definitely helpful, at least for me.
Yeah, I know I've done that more on a one-on or just like a solo style, but it's usually with like write or die, where I'll impose a deadline of, hey, how many words can I write in 15 minutes, and use that, or I'll have a playlist of only a couple of songs that's like mostly just instrumental, no lyrics, because that's distracting. How many words can I write before the music runs out? Stuff like that. I don't use that as often as I should, because that has been effective for me. But that's still more like 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes at a time maximum.
And there's a lot of things that you do in life that don't really require a whole lot of brain power, like doing the dishes. You can pretty much do that automatically. So finding something that you can do in parallel is really good. While I'm not a proponent of multitasking, as in doing more than one thing that's actually important at the same time, I am a proponent of focusing on something else while you're doing something stupid. So, I benefit from listening to a ton of podcasts. So I always have a backlog of at least like 5 to 6 episodes of an hour each, and I'm always trying to catch up. So when I want to clean the house, I don't think, oh great, now I have to clean the house. I think, oh great, I get to listen to 2 hours of podcasting uninterrupted. And then when I'm done, I feel like I accomplished something, instead of, oh, I just laid in my bed and listened to 2 hours of audiobook or podcast. But that requires a monotonous, benign task, as opposed to, like, it's going to be pretty hard to learn how to play the clarinet while you're listening to a podcast. Especially if you're taking a class and you're interrupting all these people with your podcast talk, and you're constantly laughing while you're trying to play the clarinet and your teacher's getting frustrated. I can see where that would be a problem.
Yeah. There are certain balances to be found. I could definitely use some of that focus this week. I really need to power through those panels for Inconceivable. Especially if I'm in the grand ballroom, apparently, for one of them.
Not just the ballroom, the grand ballroom.
It's probably a lot of seating.
I'm going to have to wear my fancy hat for that one. Those are the only 2 talkie points that I had for this week. Justin is more than welcome to wax poetic, as he mentioned earlier he might do.
So, it's getting closer and closer to Nano.
Don't say that word.
And I don't like to remind my fellow writers about this, but it occurred to me even more when I went to Cracker Barrel today and they had Halloween decorations up high.
Too soon.
So I was like, oh, Halloween's coming up technically, I guess. And then
It's only 3 months away.
you know. So last year, well, actually, I should say the year before last year. The year before last year, I largely pantsed my story. And for listeners who don't understand, there's two ways to do Nano, and that's planning, which is having an idea in your head and then writing out it. You might even have an outline, some maps, some supporting character, creation sheets, world building documents. And then there's something called pantsing, which I'm not quite sure where the term came from. Probably related to flying by the seat of your pants, if I were to make a
What
guess.
I'm hoping.
Either way, it's sort of or even being pantsed, like if you were in middle school, because you're totally unprepared for something like that. So either or, flying by the seat of your pants, pantsing, it's a word that fits. It means that you're basically going in with no idea whatsoever of what you're doing. And so 2 years ago, I won Nano, but I won it with a cast of characters that I really liked, that I really planned out ahead of time. But it occurred to me about halfway through that, oh, crap, this novel that I'm writing has literally no story. It's just a bunch of characters casually interacting with each other. And there's nothing driving the story. There's no conflict. I kind of had an idea of what a conflict would be, but it was never addressed. There is a scene where one of my characters is cutting up vegetables to make a soup, and that's one of the more exciting scenes. So my goal for the next 3 months is to actually try to figure out what I want my story to be. And the challenges that I'm getting right now with the story is that it's going to be an epic and a journey, and if I need to describe it in a few words, I say think of it like an Asian Lord of the Rings. And just by saying that, it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But really, I'm writing a story about a sweeping journey with a bunch of characters. And while Lord of the Rings had this overarching thing that drove the narrative, which overall really wasn't that exciting or important, case in point, the first Lord of the Rings novel, where nothing happened at all.
We don't talk about that.
At least the first half.
It was a huge party. What are you
everyone
talking about? It was like 50 pages long.
Yeah, and then they wandered around in the forest for several chapters, and nothing happened.
They met the
And
dude
people wonder,
and Forest Queen, and
people say, oh, why did you cut out Tom Bombadil? Because nothing happened that entire time. That's probably why. It's not good
but
for
they
a
had
movie.
the singing, and
They had the singing in the movie, that was fine. Whatever. But that book's just it's not good. And also the fact that, I'm heavily influenced by the fantasy series that I've read. Whether it's Dark Towers, Lord of the Rings, or watching Game of Thrones. I've admittedly not read it. So this is going to be somewhat sword and sorcery type of epic, and I'm trying to play around with some ideas, but then I feel like the ideas I'm playing around with have already been done into the ground already, and it's kind of hard to spice up that genre without being instantly compared to, oh, you're just ripping off Game of Thrones now that it's popular. Oh, you're trying to cash in on this other IP.
Well, that ties into the first talkie point of how do you find your own spin on something like that.
And I'm trying to keep in touch with the, Asian mythology, specifically Taoism. And while there's a bunch of stuff there, it would be really convenient if I could have like an elf character that all my audience can instantly recognize and understand what an elf character is, instead of me having to describe from scratch what all of these characters are, because the Western audience really doesn't have a lot of exposure to Asian mythology. And I'm finding trying to explain these concepts to be extremely tedious. Like, oh, So people understand what the serpent dragon is, but people don't really understand what the phoenix is actually. It's more of a chicken than an actual beautiful eagle, raven-like bird that bursts into flames. In fact, I don't think the Asian one does burst into flames. I'd have to look that up. And then there's the guardian lions and stuff like that, but that people can recognize because they're in front of the Chinese food restaurant that they go to. But beyond that, I have to start describing these all new concepts, and then I can start throwing in my own stuff. And I'm having trouble getting on the ground floor with my readers.
Well, how
As
balanced?
soon as I say I have an elf, everyone knows what an elf means, basically, based on their own exposure to Lord of the Rings and other
Everyone
sweeping
can
epic
picture
and
some
lore.
form of elf.
Yeah, they're like 2 feet tall and wear little green outfits and live at the North Pole.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's exactly correct. That'd be an interesting modern twist.
I was gonna go with they all live in a tree and make a lot of cookies, but that works too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do in the summer.
So many seasonal jobs.
So yeah, I don't know if you guys have been, running tangent to some already established mythology and trying to bring that forward at all, or if you guys had any input on that.
I haven't really played around with it too much yet, although I'm running into that territory now because I think my nano for this year is going to be my whole mermaid elementals thing that I was playing around with last week or so that I never really got to play around with. But, I mean, mermaids have been done in various styles, but I kind of know how I want to spin it, but I want to do more research as to just what is already out there so that I don't inadvertently go down an already created path.
And how's your dinosaur steampunk tea shop? Dinosaurs are in the public domain. Those count, right?
I haven't played with the dinosaurs in a long time. The steampunk tea shop plot, that's more political, or at least that's what it evolved into. But
Oh, so it's like Game of Thrones.
well, yeah, there is a throne, and games are played, and a lot of characters do die.
I don't think George R.R. Martin ever wrote anything about exploding cupcakes, though.
Well, doesn't he have at least 1 or 2 more books to go?
I don't know. I'm not paying attention to Game of Thrones at all. I know the dragons are coming.
So is Winter.
Are we sure about that last one, CJ? So
keep
far, it's
saying
not
so.
looking good. Yeah.
And Sean Bean dies. Sean Bean always dies.
Spoilers.
So it's funny you mentioned that. Now that you've spoiled it, I guess I can talk about this. So when I saw the first episode and I saw Sean Bean was in it, I was like, oh, Sean Bean, he's been in a lot of things. And then I looked on a YouTube video and it was like, oh, here's all the scenes where Sean Bean dies in every single movie. And the last one was the Game of Thrones spoiler before I'd actually seen the episodes. And I was like, oh, god damn it. I should have known. I am stupid.
Well, it's not much of a
That's why this
spoiler. In
exists.
that series, everyone dies. Chances are the last book, the last chapter will be Winter actually has come and no one survives it. The end.
Winter was just an analogy for the dragons.
So they're all frost dragons?
Could be. They breathe snow.
They're not.
Says you.
Dragons are public domain.
And there's a lot of interpretations for those. would be interesting to see Eastern versus Western interpretations of them in the same story. Because it's usually kind of either or.
That's not a good idea. We've seen that with Godzilla, and that doesn't work out well. It's a terrible idea, CJ.
Well, now CJ's going to do it. What?
Well, now that's like a challenge. Now I have to try.
Chill.
Definitely don't write a short story or a flash fiction about an Eastern and a Western dragon meeting.
Doing it.
It's a romantic comedy.
How do you fly? You don't even have wings like me.
Magic.
And don't do like what Bethesda did and confuse a dragon with a wyvern.
Mm-hmm.
Because technically all the dragons in Skyrim are wyverns.
And that's because they have 2 legs as opposed to 4, and among other painfully obvious
Correct.
distinctions.
We're not supposed to acknowledge those flaws. Bethesda will get angry.
Copyright infringement.
I'm having a staring contest with my cat. I win.
Are there such public domain concepts that you cannot combine, like Eastern versus Western dragons? Since they are pretty radically different, it would be very difficult to actually legitimately do.
The only thing I ever saw on that was a theoretical Discovery Channel special about how dragons could have been real. And they basically said there were evolutionary things about how the dragons in the west lived on land and high mountains, so they evolved to fly, and the dragons that went east spent a lot of time swimming in the vast oceans and waterways, so they evolved to lose their wings and become sleek things that could swim easily. But that was all theoretical science.
And a lot of that science has been thrown out recently, especially with the idea that most winged dinosaurs now, they feel probably never actually flew because their wingspan could not actually support their weight, especially with the thinner air, up above. And most of them probably just glided for a little bit, much like crickets, or not crickets, grasshoppers. Just kind of flutter about, glide a little bit, but not actually fly.
Well, they did cover that in the special that dragons actually had gas pockets to help lighten themselves. Specialized organs that would contain gases to make themselves lighter.
That would be interesting.
I'm not even sure what kind of gas that would need to be to provide that much buoyancy. That
Anything lighter than air.
No, it'd have to be a lot more buoyant than anything lighter than air.
How do you know that they just didn't learn how to defy gravity? Just because we haven't figured it out doesn't mean that dragons couldn't.
I'm not even going to address that.
I really thought you'd come up with a witty response for that.
They are
No, I'm just
supposed to be
upset that you
intelligent.
suggest that. Only the Sean Connery one.
They are supposed to. Working?
Shall we roll into the highlights reel for the week?
Sure, why not?
Yes.
Let's see here. We got a couple things for the highlights reel this week. First, screen share, so viewers can actually see what we're talking about. Alright, the book of the week is actually 7 books of the week, because it's the whole series. the Seven series was brought to my attention at Book Expo this year because it's 7 books to a series, obviously, but each book is written by a different author. And they all tie in together. And I really want to read them because that whole concept is fascinating. More so because there's a sequel series now. The 7 sequels by the same 7 authors. And it's the same order. So like book 1 of the 7 series, that author also does book 1 of the sequel, and so on and so forth. So I want to track these down and read all 14 copies, or 14 books. Because I obviously don't have enough to read already. I mean, even the premise is pretty intriguing. When David McLean, beloved grandfather and avid adventurer, dies at the age of 92, he leaves behind a very unusual will that outlines the 7 tasks he has set for his 7 grandsons. 7 known authors bring their signature styles to a series of adventures that take readers from the top of Kilimanjaro to the bottom of the Mediterranean. I kind of want to know what the 7 tasks are, and why there's a sequel series. I mean, does it take them that long to accomplish the 7 tasks?
Everyone failed their task.
We'll just have to read to find out.
Maybe the grandson's children are in the sequel and have to accomplish it because the grandsons all failed. Or maybe he has 7 granddaughters, and they have their own tasks, for all we know.
Go on.
You'll have to read the series to find out. And it's intriguing that they actually have a teacher's guide for the series, so if you wanted to teach it in a class, apparently they have a whole setup for that as well. So I presume it would be to like cover different writing styles and how they can all tie together or something. We've seen certain series that have been continued or finished by different authors, usually because the primary author has died or is no longer capable of continuing a series, but something like this I feel is pretty unique.
I know. Okay, my mic is on. I noticed that there's a trailer.
Oh, yeah. Trailer.
I'm sure this will come across great on the video podcast, streaming a video on a screen share. What could go wrong?
It's 35 seconds, so comparatively short. Shall we give it a try?
If it's only 35 seconds, yes, we should try.
I don't know if the audio will go through, but let's find out.
Apparently not.
Can't hear a thing.
Oh, now I can.
There it is.
Apparently one of the tasks was get a tattoo. That's what I got from that trailer.
That doesn't really give us much to work with, although I do like the music. Intriguing.
It has a certain pulp style to it.
Yeah, that is the book highlight for the week. Other highlights include a YouTuber, because I've been hunting down more book reviewers and just other literary peoples online that update regularly. And I came across this one. The user is eLizzie Books. I presume it would be pronounced, maybe. Possibly, why not? The link is in the show notes if you want to track it down. She does a lot of different series and like book reviews, book hauls, talking about recent news type stuff all sorts of good things. I've watched at least half a dozen of the videos, and they're pretty good. Definitely worth checking out if you want to find more book reviews. And she has a lot more book reviews than we do. 124 at the moment. I don't think we even have 24 at the moment,
Hmm.
because our recording schedule for that has been pretty wonky lately. We're trying to hammer that down.
Working on it.
Getting there.
Don't mind me, I have a cat trying to steal my Pocky. No!
Save the Pocky.
He wants to play the pocket game.
And the website of the week I found, which is very dangerous because it is a thrift bookstore online,
Oh, that is
which
very
I posted to on Tumblr, and then Will told me I shouldn't look at it because it's dangerous. And I already have enough books anyway.
good.
Ooh, they have a bargain basement on top of the thrift store book thing idea. Do they have random collections where they send you a box filled with books?
That would be pretty cool.
No.
Ooh, they have a warehouse in Connecticut.
Where?
I said, click on it. Wait for it to load. That is not what you want to be on top.
Catcher in the Rye. It's a close
Yeah.
second. Still haven't read that, or Catch-22, or hundreds of other books I was supposed to have read by now.
I would have to look into the logistics of this a little more, considering I clicked on Connecticut and it says ships from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a few quirks in the layout at the moment.
It might be cheapest price. Happens to be from Connecticut for that book, or from Texas from that book, but Connecticut has it in stock. That'd be my guess.
Probably. But they do seem to have a little bit of everything, considering the list of categories. And those are pretty decent prices.
What's shipping?
Let's find out. Oh yeah, they have the whole list of where they're from. So let's
Free
do.
shipping.
Oh well.
It's right there.
Yay,
All
free
right.
shipping. And condition, which is nice. If they
So
have
shipping.
bargain basement, what's deals? So I guess certain series.
It looks
Beast
like it's
Quest.
group sets.
I have not heard of Beast Quest, but I like the cover art. Guardians of Eternity sounds like an interesting series, but then I saw the cover art, and probably not the genre I'm used to.
You mean Embrace the Darkness with a clever pun is not something that you're interested in?
I'll hold off for now.
Ooh, what about the Gallagher Girls? It sounds like it's up my alley.
Well, books 1 through 3 are only $8 with
There we
free
go.
shipping.
I don't need to see their faces anyways.
Arcane Society.
Second Sight, Sizzle and Burn, and White Lies.
So these are like triplets. No,
Yeah,
I
it
mean the
seems to
books,
be-
not the cover art that we were looking at earlier.
Yeah, it all seems to be like books 1 through 3, or 3 from a particular author.
Or genre, because like that Arcane one was 3 different authors.
Ah. Apparently Anne Rice is special since it's books 4 through 6 of the Vampire Chronicles, and I have 2 of those 3 in my pile to be read anyway. Those books are dense. They take a long while to get through.
So if this was deals, what was bargain bin? Just like the cheapest possible? A la
Yeah,
carte?
that's where we were before.
Wait, Anne Rice wrote Queen of the Damned? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I had that in my pile.
Really, really dangerous.
Civil War stories. Arcane Society again.
Hmm.
James Patterson,
James
3
Patterson.
novels. Sundays at Tiffany's. Not breakfast. Maybe brunch.
Well, it is Sunday.
True. Ken Follett. Always fun.
Ooh,
Classic
nice.
Stephen
Yeah,
King
yeah.
animal.
Nice.
Cujo, Pet Cemetery, and what's that? Thinner?
Thinner.
I
Although
have not
Thinner's a
read
short
any of
story,
those.
it's not really a book, per se.
Maybe that version is a collection of short stories.
You never know. Oh wow, this is a very long list now that I look at where my scroll wheel is. Goodness. There's a lot of deals on here apparently. Sleeping Beauty trilogy? When was that a
Diane
trilogy?
Rice.
Goodness. But yeah, this site apparently has a lot.
They have Japanese imports of manga.
Wait, what?
I haven't seen anything else like outstandingly good, but I've seen it, quite a bit of it.
Hmm.
I
Well,
just
I have
did
my own
manga.
sources for that, but foreign language books. That's, well, no, not all in English. Le Y Cafe. Well then. That is pretty cool to think all multilingual. And we didn't mention it before, but the URL is just thriftbooks.com. Pretty easy to track down.
Thriftbooks.com/say goodbye to your cash.
Uh, let's go dangerous. What's under sci-fi and fantasy?
Dun dun dun.
Ooh, The Killing Joke.
Ooh. And only 1014. That's not too shabby.
Flatland, I have a original copy of that.
I do not have a copy of that, but that is a fantastic read and well worth the $4 they offered for.
Player's Handbook by Gary Gygax himself.
Oh, wow.
CJ, while you're screen sharing, you should click it so it only shows your video. It keeps popping over to Will every time he has a comment.
Got to do that. Thank you. Wow. Only $6, pretty much. But
You'd
only
be
one
stupid
copy.
not to buy it.
1978. Yep, that's probably first edition.
That's really cool. I don't know what I would do with it though.
Considering they re-released them for like 20 to 30 bucks recently.
Hmm. Yeah, if there's something that you're looking for that's out of print, this might be a good place to find it. Actually. I can't think of the author, but I know it's out of print. Do they have it? They do. Phoebe Atwood Taylor, that was the name. A weird mystery series that is based off of a crime solver in Cape Cod, but they're all out of print. No, not the title ISBN. Author, dang it. How many of the books do they have? Because these are very hard to find, even at used bookstores. The re-releases... 6 pages worth, though. That's not too shabby. I'm impressed. Good on them. So yeah, definitely a cool site. Definitely worth checking out. Just budget accordingly.
Yeah.
And I know that Muse Food is right up after this, so I'm just going to leave screen share on and go to the next tab.
Perfect.
So Every week, we provide multiple styles of writing prompts. And they can really be creative prompts in general, but it's most primarily been targeted for writers just because, I mean, one-liners and whatnot, but you can get creative with them. We provide 10 one-liners, 10 one-worders, and a combination of Rory's story cubes each week because some writers are more visual-based than word-based, despite the fact that we play with words often. But the story cubes are fun because half the fun is trying to interpret just what the heck they are anyway. Now, let's see. We conveniently have 3 other people on the show at the moment. So you 3 can duke it out as to who gets which segment.
I'll take the one-liners.
Okay. It's first come, first serve for the other 2.
Words.
I'm going in and out on my computer, actually.
If Ed holds out, he can do the story cubes. If not, I'll pick them up. But in the meantime, Will gets to go.
Alright, so the one-lining writing prompts this week are, I can find a use for this, but only if you let go of it first. Quick, while everyone is asleep, make us some pancakes and waffles and a 3-layer cake. Headphones only work when you have them plugged in, doofus. And then she turned to gold. Don't ever drop the mic. Feedback is painful. That's not a wall. That's sledgehammer food. Your fish is still moving. Enough with the whining already. Get back to work. And I popped another tire this week. And how do you lose someone in the bathroom?
Before I get into the one-worders, this reminded me the first thing about waffles. So we all know the amazing combination of chicken and waffles, right?
I have never had it.
I've heard
You're
of
at least casually aware of it, I assume?
Yes.
So it's amazing, and I'm fully on board with it. However, I saw somebody post a picture. They were at a fair, and they were serving fried chicken tenders in a waffle cone.
That does sound tasty.
And it looked really good. So I just wanted to discuss that briefly. One-word writing prompts. Sorry about the volume level. Mold. Let's hope that's not in the waffle. Bullet. Storm. Bullet storm. Noodle. Model. Overdue. Lists. Subtitles. Teacher. And goose.
Don't mind me, I'm poking at that first one. The story cubes. Looks like a kid with like a demon shadow. Am I seeing that right?
Looks like to me.
Okay.
That's what I would interpret it as.
Then we have like a little guy shielding his eyes and pointing. Black water. Okay. The all-seeing eye. Oh. It's just like an eye. And like the kind you have in your head. Looks like a gas gauge of some sort. Empty, maybe? And then we have a very small horn helm, a camera, a magnet, and a face that looks less than happy.
CJ, has Rory released the expansions for Rory's Story Cubes yet?
No, at
Are
least
you
not as
serious?
of last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been so long. It's just pictures that you paste on the dice in the program. Why is it taking so long? I'm going to write a letter. It's getting frustrating. I'm upset.
I really hope they do end up releasing them at some point because,
Considering
They
they're
do look
advertised
fun.
all over the app.
yeah. Hopefully they get the ability to finish those up and get them coded in
maybe they need to be released physically first, because I don't think I've seen them out in the wild yet.
Well, that could be.
Mhm.
I don't know what the issues are behind that.
I'm going to write them a well-worded angry letter.
I know we've seen a couple of sets at the bookstore.
I don't know which sets are out though.
Yeah, I don't either.
There are, last I saw, there were 3 sets. There's the main set, there's the voyages, and there's the actions. I have all 3 of them, and they're 9 dice apiece. The digital app also promotes 2 to 3 dice sets that are coming soon, but they've been coming soon since we've been using these. So
I feel like it's been over a year.
yeah, it's been a little while. For some reason, when you said Blackwater, it made me think of Pirates of Darkwater.
Well, that's what it was a picture of.
Hmm.
Black water.
And those are your writing prompts for this week. As always, if you write a short story or flash fiction based off of any of these writing prompts, we would love to read it. You can send us a copy of the piece or the URL where we can check it out via our email. Our email is wordninja@fcwriters.com, conveniently placed at the bottom of the PDF of each writing prompt. And with that, I'm taking myself off the screen share, so I can actually look at the show notes, because I think up next are weekly goals and aspirations updates. Everyone's favorite part. Hmm.
Big butt.
Yay!
All right. My weekly goals have somewhat progressed. As far as Inspire the Muse endeavors go, sellable baubles. Everything is in Ed's hands now. I spent the whole weekend handing over everything to Ed. So, it's your problem now. Ha ha!
Yeah, whatever.
Considering it's already been condensed down to 3 containers worth of stuff.
Well, to take with us to cons.
Yeah.
The rest of it is safely stored in the other room.
Let me know how the sewing machine works out for you, and if you need any help, let me know. I know a little bit about it.
I will. I actually have to use it, so
Yep.
I have stuff to make.
I gave you the instructions too, I believe, so it should be.
Yes. Thank you.
And don't use any of my old thread, because it is 20 years old and it's all garbage.
I heard like half of that.
I said,
Don't use his old thread.
just throw all the thread away. Start over.
Gotcha. I don't throw it away. I use it for hand sewing.
Perfect.
Yeah, if it's 20 years old, then presumably it will have deteriorated in strength to some degree.
That's why I use for hand stuff, because I can be careful with it.
As far as 2014 convention logistics are concerned, we're pretty set for Inconceivable, or at least as set as they're going to be at this point. I'm trying to coordinate things with Calvin for Brooklyn Book Festival, because I completely forgot about that, and it's happening next month, so we need to get on that. And it's also the same time as Banned Book Week. I don't know what we are doing for Banned Book Week, but I want to do something for Banned Book Week, so I need to figure out how we're handling that. And then, of course, Rhode Island Comic Con is still far enough away that anything that's involved with their staff, we're still figuring out, and anything on our end, just we'll deal with after Inconceivable.
Right, July.
For partnerships and affiliations, I have heard back from several other organizations we're in talks with for either guest speakers or maybe some affiliation stuff, but nothing is concrete yet, so I will not name names. As far as brand management is concerned, we're still working on that. That's going to be a month or two before we have anything worth sharing. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a guest for next week's episode, a cover artist and author. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that. And next month we have set a date for another speaker. So hooray!
Woo-woo!
And as always, we have like a dozen or so others that I'm in talks with, just trying to hammer out dates and times and logistics. So, as far as writing endeavors are concerned, I did not poke at my new plot bunny I talked about last time round. Now I'm kind of convinced that I just want to outline it for Nano. I do not want to rehash one of my 7 other plots that I keep on rehashing during Nano. I want to try something new. I'm getting tired of rehashing stories, and my characters in all of those stories are getting grumpy because of it. So I get to make all new characters and have them get grumpy at me.
That's always fun.
And for some reason, I decided to start trying to trim down my Kindle library, because why not? So I'm now working my way through the Percy Jackson series finally. I'm 75% through book 1, and I can see why people are very frustrated with the movie adaptations. As much as I enjoyed the movie adaptations, the books provide a lot more so far. And as far as ongoing stuff or future stuff, it's just rinse and repeat. Make sure that everything is logisticized and coordinated for all the various events and whatnots. Pretty straightforward on my end. How about other people's? If no one talks, I'm just going to
I'll go.
on screens and not tell whose screen is highlighted. But Justin goes first.
I'll do it. Let's see. So last week's goals and this week's goals are largely going to be very similar. So I'm not going to go over new goals because they're just going to be what's left over on the old goals. Prepare for LLC meeting. That's ostensibly been done because we actually had the meeting. So whether or not I prepared for it, it's a moot point. I think I prepared. Right. I think I prepared well for it. So I consider that done. I wrote down front load work during the week instead of being a lazy slouch. So I came to the conclusion a couple weeks ago that I was, nothing was going on at work during the beginning of the week, so I was kind of, being nice and relaxed about it. And then as the week progressed, it got more and more stressful. So I started to front load my week work, and that was going to go well until my computer died this morning. So I recovered all my files, and I think the computer's working as of now. That's the last report that I got. And so hopefully that should be good. So yes, it's been another stressful week as per usual. Drink water with coffee. I discovered a couple weeks ago that I was probably getting sleepy after drinking coffee because I also wasn't drinking enough water, and coffee makes me dehydrated. I haven't notated any specific events where I did this because I didn't drink any coffee for the last 2 weeks. But when I do, I will be certain to drink a lot of water. Let's see, I wrote change timer plan to deadline plan. So I set a timer on my phone for basic events throughout the day. But the times that I chose were kind of arbitrary, and things at work usually got in the way of those, so they became deadline plans. But now I kind of switched it back to timer plans and kind of reorganized my day a little bit. So I'm kind of flip-flopping back and forth on that. I didn't do anything involving my blog, including blog posts, challenge, or finishing notes for a famous article that I've brought up many times on this podcast before. Start preparing for NaNoWriMo. I have been starting to prepare for that. Mostly it's been brainstorming and trying to figure out what kind of story I want these amazing characters to have to deal with. And I may write some flash fiction to try to grease the wheels a little bit. I'm not going to reread Lily, the book that I wrote for last year's Nano and didn't quite finish, because I want to focus on this other NaNoWriMo project first. And watch the videos uploaded to the Fairfield County, or Full Coverage Writers YouTube page. I totally forgot that was on this list, so I still have to do that. And as for next week, it'll be basically everything that I missed this week, now that my computer's not broken.
And how about the will?
Okay. I think it's going to be like another rinse and repeat for me as well. Let's see. Practice the Literotica panel every day if possible. I have yet to read it once. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to read it once a day, every day, including today.
Or we shall mock you next week.
Yes, you must mock me next week if I don't. And I will get it memorized, and I may write up mini versions to have as handouts. Because at Kineticon, someone actually asked for a copy of it, so I think doing little handouts with the URL to our website will be helpful.
Yeah, I'm tempted to do the same for mine. That way, once it gets posted on the YouTube channel or on the website, we can just post like a PDF of the executive summary or the outline version for people to view, but they still have to watch the whole video.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Let's see. I think I'm always going to have record more gameplay up there, even though I haven't done it in a while, just simply because you never know when that's going to hit to desire, or something's going to come up, or we're going to be like, we should record this. Especially if CJ and I are playing some Borderlands 2 together. I do like the idea of doing DLC stuff instead of main storyline stuff.
And there is plenty of DLC out there for us to play with.
Yeah.
I think, doesn't a lot of the DLC require you to be max level?
CJ
Big
wandered
game hunters, especially?
Yeah, probably. I know CJ wandered himself over to the Badass Crater of Badassitude a little early, but he said it only required, what, level 15, 17, something like that?
The enemies were level 15 and 16, and I was level 10 at the time, so I just used a lot of the vehicles and ran people over continuously.
But I do believe stuff like the Big Game Hunt and maybe Tiny Tina and the Headhunter stuff is probably endgame stuff. But we shall get there and see.
Yeah.
Maybe just record us doing side quests instead of main storyline quest.
Yeah.
There are plenty of those. Let's see. Write for roommate. I'm going to adopt a new mantra. I think this has been holding me back. I actually flipped through the Word Ninja book while CJ was here this weekend on the writer block section, and one saying stood out in my mind, and I'm going to use it as my mantra. First draft is for me. I think I get a little too edity and hypercritical when I'm first writing and just go, no, that's not right, no, that's not right, no, that's not right. I need to just write it, and I can go back and edit it later. And I'm hoping to be able to make progress with that. And then edit together the next Not Suitable for Word Ninjas podcast. Probably get started on that soon, since it'll be out on the 15th. Yeah, so it'll have to be done before then.
You only have 6 more to go for the year.
True, since we will be reducing the number we release each month after this month. Starting in September, there will only be one Not Suitable for Word Ninja podcast each month.
Yeah, due to Terror 2015 stuff, we're only going to have 20 episodes of NSFWN for 2014.
However, we do have plenty of new recordings after this weekend, which I might use for this month.
Hopefully some of it is usable, considering it's not in a car and the gain is not at 100%.
Hopefully it will work. And that's...
Just compress the audio way down. It'll be fine.
What could go wrong?
That, I think, is pretty much all I've got.
And I'm going to be guessing that Ed's goals are organize the inventory even more than they already are, but I shall let him speak for himself.
Yes. I'm trying to get to my computer, but I have a cat in my lap. I have a list. There's the list.
Distracted cat is very distracting.
Yes!
So usually we do this podcast at 3 p.m., so I haven't needed ample light in this room before, but it's come to my attention that there's no light in this room, and that when it's 8 o'clock and the sun sets, it becomes problematic and kind of scary.
I just find it funny that
noticed.
Ed and I are in the same room, but it does not look at it based on our lighting.
No, it does not. And I look like I'm going to get murdered.
But he is
Dark.
right over here.
I don't know that.
Mm.
Okay. So, I suppose I will start with the craziness. Basically, I've gotten further with getting the stuff listed on the Etsy store.
Hooray.
Still have a whole bunch to add. Again, I did finish doing the button grab bags. Got
Nice.
those together. You actually saw me kind of working on it. And I have to make a tablecloth, and I have to make the display for the buttons. Everything else should be pretty good, as far as like con stuff goes. I have to draw more and all that lovely stuff. Kind of my ongoing thing. And I'm still afraid of the markers Sheepy gave me. They're still sitting over there. I have to practice after con. That's pretty much it. I'm not to die when I'm making stuff. I got 2 weeks. Maybe get a few more cubes put together. Not that I don't have a whole bunch of them already.
Hmm. Yeah, I gotta touch base with our one commission that I'm aware of at the moment for those.
Yes.
See where that stands.
Once I have confirmation, then I can put it together in like an hour or two.
Yep.
I just need to know we've been paid for it.
All right. What else is in the show notes? Oh, hey, events. Convenient. There are many. The two for this month is Connecticut Comic Con, the weekend of August 15th to 17th. Our affiliate, Itty Bitty Sheep, will be attending as a vendor. If you're in Connecticut, you should check that out, because it is a ridiculous convention. They're going to have a lot of stuff to check out. Not just vendors, but a lot of special guests. And the same weekend is Inconceivable in Northampton, Massachusetts, where a majority of us will be attending as vendors and panelists and press and whatever else we can figure out. I know we have 3 panels on the schedule, and we have our table in the vendor's room, wherever that happens to be. I haven't looked at the full details that they've updated lately. For next month, Brooklyn Book Festival and Banned Book Week. I know Brooklyn Book Festival is at the same time, but I think that's just a Sunday. For that one, Calvin and I are going to attend, and we're trying to push for a press badge or 2 if we can swing it. I'm still trying to negotiate that, because there are a lot of really cool authors there, and I would love to get even like a 5-minute interview. Heck, even if we can just ask 2 questions or something, that would be a lot of fun. Because, I mean, R.L. Stine is going to be there. How can you not want to check out R.L. Stine? He was my childhood.
Oh, yeah.
Which explains a lot.
Well, and while
explains
everyone
some.
inundates him with Goosebumps references, I'll be talking about Fear Street.
I never got into that.
That's because it was violent, gory, and horrifically disturbing.
Which makes me wonder why I never got into that. And the only other convention for the year that is on our calendar is Rhode Island Comic Con. Conveniently in Rhode Island. But that's not until November 1st and 2nd-ish. I think October 31st is mixed in there as well. Where a majority of us and our affiliate, Itty Bitty Sheep, will be attending as vendors and artists. And maybe press if we can swing that. So basically, if you're in New England, you should come to one of these conventions and come say hello. We want to meet our viewers and listeners. We are friendly, I swear. And there's like 50 billion conventions and events for next year that are on the table for discussion.
We'll get there. Survive it.
Yeah, if we survive all of the conventions from this year.
Next year's going to be a banner year. First, I'll actually be able to attend some of the conventions.
Even if we have to kidnap you.
Mm-hmm. You may have to.
We'll save you
no.
from the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that I don't have all of our inventory in my trunk, we have space for you.
In the trunk.
I see. I see. I do have a car now. You don't actually have to kidnap me. Although it would help.
Well, we have a whole half of a year to figure that out, so. Let's see. That pretty much wraps up this episode, unless anyone has some last-minute commentary or things they'd like to discuss. Nothing but silence and darkness. Okay, moving on. Wrapping the show up, we are brought to you by many different peoples and places and organizations. The full list is in the show notes for every episode. I don't really feel like listing them out because that'll take another 20 minutes. But suffice to say, we are brought to you by a lot of awesome people who help make this show what it is. And if you were entertained in any way, shape, or form by what we have put together, there are very easy ways you can show that appreciation. The easiest is, of course, subscribing to our YouTube channel, which theoretically you are watching this on. And if you're listening to the audio version, well then, to find our YouTube channel, just search for Full Coverage Writers. We will pop up, because we finally got the name changed. Hooray!
Yay!
And I mean, you can do all the classic YouTube stuff, like not just subscribing, but commenting, thumbs upping the videos, all that good stuff. And we're also on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, all those social media accounts, which we will detail shortly. And let's see. I don't really feel like reading that, because I still want to tweak the wording on that, so let's skip that. Let's just end up with who are we anyway, and where can people find us on the internets? I'm going to go in reverse order of the people on my screen and start with Ed.
Okay. Actually, I am pleased to be able to say that my DeviantArt has finally changed.
Oh
So
my.
now everything pretty much has the same feel. Thank you to Pete for that. So yeah, the primary place to find me is my various Tumblr blogs. All can be found from the Full Metal Edward Elric.tumblr.com. Selectively NSFW. Some days it is, some days it's not. Everything is tagged and marked though. And I also have my personal, which is XXX Edcoon XXXX.tumblr.com. Just click on my Edcoon blogs on the original one, you'll find it. Easiest. I do tweet very infrequently. I'm either at my roleplay one, which is Ed the Alchemist, or my personal one, which is Midnight Alchemist. And Midnight is kind of spelled funny. I would suggest just looking it up in the show notes.
It's also spelled the exact same way as your lower third, I think.
No, it's not.
Close.
The Midnight is actually MIDNYT. Because Twitter has a very short...
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't do the whole thing. I once in a while live stream, and it's basically livestream.com/eds space. It's all one word, but there's two S's in there. Again, thanks to Peter, who was really kind enough to give me Premier membership. I was able to change my DeviantArt. So now it is the Full Metal Edward.deviantart.com. Formerly Lady Midnight. That doesn't work anymore. Let's see. Oh, my personal Etsy. It's etsy.com/shop /eMidnight Designs. Basically, it's all print right now. And I do have a commission post. Again, you can find that on my Tumblr. Yes. That's it.
And people should check out that commission information because I have officially been blacklisted from asking for any more commissions, so other people need to.
No, you need to stop asking me for this shit crazy stuff.
But it's fun.
I cannot put 15 people in the same picture. It doesn't work. I can't even put 5.
I think the most you've done was 4.
Technically 3. 4, but it was playing with the same 2 people.
Yeah, but it's still 4 individual. Yeah.
It was a creative piece. Realistically speaking, I don't like doing more than 2.
And now it's time for the person enacting a horror movie, Justin.
I was wondering if you're laughing the entire time from all of my faces. So I'm not going to promote anything except my scary faces. You can find me in the depths of hell because I am going to be murdered in the dark. This has gotten really creepy, and I live pretty close to Bridgeport, so this could actually happen. And I picture like a big scary clown face showing up right about here, depending on the white balance, and then that'll be the last you hear of me.
And cue Pennywise.
I did make a paper boat, and it did float into a sewer, so...
Oh dear.
I didn't open my refrigerator yet. And Tim Curry is staying over my house. That's 3 references to the movie.
Any other things you want to pimp out other than your scary face in the darkness?
No, just a scary face in the darkness. Things are in the works, and they're exciting, but they're not done yet. So I will pimp them when they're ready.
And now it's Will's turn.
Yay! Nothing changes for me. You can find my personal Tumblr at darkhom.tumblr.com. That's DARKHOM. It's not safe for work typically because I blog and post whatever I feel like it, and sometimes it's not safe for work. I also have a writing Tumblr for My Roommate's a Stripper at myroommatesastripper.tumblr.com, where I post pretty much everything directly related to the stories, fan art, things like that. Posted up a couple character bios recently. Along with the story itself, it's typically not safe for work. There is an Ask blog related to it called asktheroommates.tumblr.com, where you can post questions to the cast of My Roommate's a Stripper, well, they will answer in character. I really never use my Twitter ever, but it is at Will Granville. And I have a Sofurry at darkhom.sofurry.com, which, of course, like everything else, is not safe for work. That's pretty much it.
So basically, you are not safe for work.
No, I am not.
He's not, ever.
Alright, as for myself, you can track me down on my zombified Twitter feed, silver_wolf85. I occasionally remember that it exists and will post various tidbits. You can track me down on the Fairy Tale Podcast as Makarov, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday nights in, what is that, an hour and a half from now? Goodness. My personal Tumblr is fancypantswolf.tumblr.com. That is NSFW-ish because I post whatever I want on there, and every once in a while it's not really safe for work. You have been warned. For all things full coverage writers, you can check out our website, which is fcwriters.com. That has an archive of all of the previous episodes of War Ninjas Live, all of the coverage of our events. We got a couple worksheets up there. A workshop. We're hoping on getting more on there eventually. We have links to our Etsy store on there, which you should definitely check out,
Yes.
because that is a fantastic way to support us, checking out the Etsy store and, by extension, purchasing stuff from the Etsy store. Like one of these 75 button designs, or all 75 of the button designs. Buy one of everything.
I almost got them all up there.
If you can't decide, you can grab a random grab bag of 10 buttons.
Yes.
And the link to our Etsy store is in the show notes and all that, but if you're just listening and you want to write it down or whatever, it's just etsy.com/shop/fullcoveragewriters. Our YouTube channel, if you're not on there at the moment, just search for Full Coverage Writers, or the short URL we've created is wnja.us/YouTube. Our literary Twitter handle is @FCWordNinja. Our literary Tumblr is fcwordninja.tumblr.com. Facebook is facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. And for anything and everything else, you can just email us. That email address is wordninja@fcwriters.com. And with that, that wraps up episode 53 of Word Ninja Live. You can tune in Sunday, where we will actually have a special guest on for episode 54.
Yay, special guest.
Yeah. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get updates as to when we go live and all that. And until next time, have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.